Surprise, surprise. I guess that last video wasn't the actual last one I was going to do for the summer. I guess this one actually will be. Um, this is actually the second time I've been trying to do this. I did it last night and had it about like I wanted it, good enough at least. But then I ended up going on to the gym and was planning on just coming back and taking a shower and eating something and going to bed and going to work and yada, yada, yada. But I saw something on my way to the gym that I'll get to later on in this that had me thinking the rest of the night and had me really frustrated for the rest of the night and made me want to reshoot this from scratch. So hopefully I can add that addendum on to the end here, and hopefully I can actually remember the stuff that I pointed out in the last time that I did this. So what I'm on about, I guess let me segue into all this by saying this. It's always, I think disappointed me is the best word to use. It's always disappointed me growing up here in central Kentucky with all the signs and the bumper stickers and the flags I would occasionally see, something about the South will rise again, and beyond just I think that what it's referring to is something awful. Hot take of the day, I know. I think the real reason it disappoints me so much is it seems to assume that the South that's referring to is something that even can be revived and can return in the first place. And on the shelf behind me somewhere, you've got William Faulkner with The Sound of the Fury, who around 1930ish, somewhere around there, is writing about exactly that. He's writing from Mississippi, not Kentucky, but he's writing about this whole adage then that you've got this group of people that cling on to that mindset, that cling on to this idealistic South that existed before the Civil War, and they want to return to that. They want to desperately cling on to that. And he points out pretty much throughout the course of the book that, for better or worse, I'm not really sure if he thought that was a good thing or a bad thing, but one way or another, that South is dead, it's gone, and it's not coming back. And so it seems to me even more ridiculous today to cling on to that. And I think to take it even one step further, I think the real reason that disappoints me is that there are things since that transition about the South, about rural America, about central Kentucky here specifically, that are very much worth preserving. And I think we are undergoing another transition. And if we aren't careful, those things are not going to be preserved. Those things are going to be washed away. They're going to be dissolved. And I guess to have another really weird segue here, I've always kind of really hated handicapped automated doors, and maybe that's just makes me an awful person. I'm not sure, but I really hate it for a couple of reasons. First, it's just the small selfish reason that I hate when I push on a door and the door pushes back. But the second and the big reason is that used to be the sort of thing, opening a door for somebody that couldn't open it on their own, that I think created social fabric. There's this small, insignificant sort of way that I can help my neighbor out. And we've managed to automate away the need for that. Obviously, that's kind of just a small example, but here we are with the more and more every day, the looming technocracy that seems to be taking over from people who very much do not live in rural America and very much do not live in central Kentucky. And they're pushing technologies that seem to be very, very, very rapidly eroding that social fabric. The sort of central Kentucky that Wendell Berry, again behind me here, somewhere on the shelf, his book, not him, that'd be odd, but the sort of central Kentucky that he talks about in his books, that my grandparents grew up telling me about, where you know everybody, everybody knows you, you've got this mutual dependency on each other, you know the intimate details of their lives and they know yours, you see them when you go to the grocery, you see them when you go to church, that sort of thing. That rural America, that South, that Kentucky seems to be kind of under threat from this new transition that's taking place. And it seems to me that Kentucky, I think, really the whole impetus for this entire video was, I think Kentucky really is the epitome of that transition. It really is at the heart of it. It really is a crossroads in a lot of ways. I guess if you happen to be watching this, which is already an off chance, and you happen to know me in addition to that personally, which is also an off chance, then you probably know where I live, and you probably know that the place where I live probably perfectly epitomizes that. But here I'm standing at this very current moment in time at a crossroads, smack dab between the north and the south, between the east and the west, just geographically. Or if you want to go through and look at it from a historical perspective, this is kind of the crossroads between civilization and the wilderness. Kentucky used to be the frontier of the U.S. at one point in time. And also, culturally, I think we're also at a crossroads because we don't quite fit into the Midwest and that culture. We don't quite fit into the East Coast and that culture. We don't even quite fit into the South in that culture. We're kind of our own distinct thing. And I think that you see that pop up time and time again with different famous Kentuckians throughout history. This kind of contrarian streak that we've had. You see it with Cassius Clay, and then you see it again with the other Cassius Clay. You see it with Hunter S. Thompson. And I think more recently, to tie this to the last video I did, you see this in the music scene. It seems to me, at least, that during the 80s, 90s, music got really boring really quick and really safe really quick. All the kind of rougher edges started to get sanded down in the name of making things more accessible and more palatable and catchy. And any kind of unique aspect of it kind of got eroded. The soul of it kind of got taken out. And country music was definitely no exception to that. And then you get the 2010s, and you get 3 different country music artists from Kentucky specifically, from different parts of Kentucky also, and they kind of breathe new life into country music. You get Chris Stapleton, you get Tyler Childers, you get Sturgill Simpson, especially those last couple, that start using this older genre and kind of the aspects that made it up and using it in new and unique sorts of ways. And the reason I bring that up is I think that if there is any solution, at least in this abstract, social, philosophical kind of way, to the disillusion of that old Kentucky that my grandparents talked about, it's in that kind of way that you, I guess to reference an archetype, a sort of symbolic thing you get pointed out all throughout literature for thousands of years, all the way back to the book of Ezekiel. You make something new, you make new flesh out of old bones. And that seems to be the sort of thing that, at least in the music scene, they were doing. And I point that out because the thing in particular I was referencing at the beginning of this, the whole reason I'm reshooting this from scratch, is that on my way to the gym, I passed the now 7th flock camera that I've seen in the last week. This one apparently must have sprung up, like the weeds that they are, within the last time that I was at the gym and now. Which, granted, it's been about a week because I started work back this week, so it's been a little while. But that's just a matter of days that popped up. And it seems like every time I blink, there's another one popping up. And there's something really, really weird and really, really kind of menacing about all the roads that I grew up riding around and driving around all of a sudden have, just within the last year, become part of this surveillance state. And that people that do not live here, people that live in Silicon Valley and want to make a profit off of spying on us, are doing that. And that people that live in Chicago and want to make even more money by plopping a data center down in my backyard have the ability to do that. And that people that are not from Kentucky seem to be determining what the future of Kentucky is going to look like. And I guess let me preface what I guess you could call my conclusion to all this by saying this. Part of that, I think, unique, distinct culture that Kentucky and Kentuckians have has been this history of, I'm not going to pick a side. Left wing isn't going to save me. The right wing isn't going to save me. This kind of contrarian aspect has popped up time and time again. You saw it with Bloody Harlan and the Coal Wars that happened on the Kentucky side of Appalachia, and then again on the kind of West Virginia side of Appalachia. You saw it in Western Kentucky with the kind of tobacco conflicts that popped up there a little later on. I'm going to word this next part carefully, hopefully abiding by the Supreme Court's ruling in Brandenburg versus Ohio, and just say this. I really do genuinely hate the fact that sometimes the only thing that gets people to listen is, if not outright violence, then at least the threat of violence. And I hope that we're not getting closer to that point, but unfortunately it does seem to me like we're getting closer to that point. And it does seem to me like Kentucky has a pretty active history of being willing to bring it to that point. I guess to take a story from the Gospels, sometimes you're kind of forced to fashion a whip for a just cause. I don't know. I'm just some guy. I don't know if that's a just cause. But in my, I guess, more private moments, I kind of lean towards thinking that it is. Again, I hope it doesn't come to violence. I'm literally not trying to be coy about it. I don't think people should go out and be violent. But it seems like we're headed in a direction here in Kentucky, and I guess rural America more broadly, where we're being pushed towards that. And I wish I could end this on a more optimistic note, but I don't really have a great solution to that. I guess on the off chance that anybody actually sees this, maybe you can actually come up with a better solution than I can. But I never do know how to end these, so bye.